Well, you probably heard it said that worry is simply fear in disguise. We worry about things that may or may not come to pass simply because we're afraid of not being able to deal properly with the outcome. Now, by worrying, our minds, I think, try to craft solutions to future problems in order to give ourselves the illusion that we're somehow in control of the situation. And again, it all comes down to fear. Fear holds us back from realizing our dreams. It paralyzes us, even as success just might be right there within our grasp. Fear is self-evolving. It needs nothing more than a few bad experiences to nurture itself and to grow into like the biggest roadblocks we face when we're trying to meet our life's goals. Now, how sad is that, really, when you think about it? Overcoming fear is easy to talk about, but it's a lot tougher to do. Beate Chelette is creator of the Women's Code and author of Happy Woman, Happy World. She's been on with us before, and she's here with us once again on the Boomers Lifeline to talk about how to deal with and overcome fear. Hey, Beate, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Johnny. Hey, Dinah. I'm so excited to be back. Thank you for having me again.
Hey, absolutely. So we talk about fear, and again, I think as we get older, it really just, for some people, it starts to overcome them. You think of the early 20s as you're almost fearless. You know, you're not gonna, nothing ever happens to you because you haven't had any experience. Fear, of course, I think is a protective emotion in many ways. Keeps us from doing stupid things, some dangerous things. It's part of a survival instinct, but it can easily overtake us and stop us from doing what's actually good for us. Why is fear such a paralyzing emotion?
Well, first of all, as we get older, we just have a lot more experiences, as you just said, of things that have gone wrong. And sometimes we take it very, very personal, and we, you know, and fear is a very paralyzing emotion, as you just said, and it basically shuts us down, and we say, well, if it has gone well for me in the past, it probably will not go well for me in the future, and we just give up.
Well, and Beate, as you mentioned, a lot of times people do remember, you know, bad or traumatic experiences that go back many, many years. So is it normal for these childhood fears to stay with us as we head into adulthood and even old age?
Well, I think it's normal to, you know, to keep things with you. I mean, you know, you've been burned at the stove before, and then, of course, you would be stupid to try to do that again. And I think that sort of mindset a lot of people carry forward. But what it is, you know, they say fortune favors the bold, right? So you get lucky because you keep trying things. And a lot of times, I think our entire society has just been set up to go a certain way, like follow the path. We tell our kids, do what we tell you, follow the path. And so people just get afraid to step off the path, and that, you know, the fear of doing something different or trying something and then failing just becomes overpowering.
Yeah, it's, you know, you mentioned touching the stove. Obviously, that's a healthy fear. You do it once, you're not going to do it again, and rightfully so. Maybe when you're a kid, though, you know, you got lost in the department store, you couldn't find your mom or whatever it was, and then for the next 30, 40 years, you find that you're afraid to be alone. I mean, do you see this a lot?
Well, I do, and you know, in my private coaching practice, I think that one of the things I really address, and that's why fear is such a big topic for me, is, you know, we want to start rebuilding our confidence. I think that's sort of really what happens, is that when we take these failures or perceived failures as a defeat, then we start to get depressed and we get negative in our thinking, and then we just attract a whole bunch more negative stuff. So we want to change that by starting to create positive experiences so we can start rebuilding our confidence, because success builds confidence.
You know, we were talking, John and I, the other day about how when bad things happen, it seems that everything bad happens all at once, and a lot of times it can just completely overwhelm you. And I know you, in particular, have had a run of bad luck or bad circumstances over the course of some years. So,
what helped you? What helped you get past that, I think, is the question.
Yeah.
You know, I really had to, you know, I call it the decade of bad luck, and I had really, really big blows. I mean, that wasn't little stuff, that was survival stuff. But I think what saved me, and this is something I really want your audience to pay attention to, is find a thought that is something that you can believe in. And for me, my thought was, this can't be all there is for me. You know, and there goes a little bit of the power of positive thinking. The positive thinking comes in not from sitting on the couch and eating potato chips, but the positive thinking comes from, what is it in this that I can learn from. I call it finding the silver lining. And so in all of that, I still was trying to find the silver lining, and I said, well, if I'm losing my business, it means that there has to be a better business for me that I need to be running. And if this relationship falls apart, that means there has to be a better one out there for me. And that is really key, is a better mindset.
Yeah, it's what you're talking about is sort of rational thinking, I think, in an emotional situation. Once you take the emotion out of it, then I guess you're able to see more clearly as you were, right?
Right. I mean, it's always going to be emotional, Johnny, because it's our life.
Right.
So it's impossible for us to detach ourselves, and I think that's totally okay. But, you know, I think it's that when we look at everything all at once, like the whole stove full of, stuff that has gone wrong and boiled to
Right.
pieces and burned and whatever, of course it's overwhelming. But if I deal with one issue at a time, it's like, what's the most important thing I need to deal with right now? Is it finding a job? Is it dealing with this relationship? Is it dealing with my children? What is it? And just focus on one thing. Set yourself small goals, and, so small that you can succeed in them. And that's how we start rebuilding the confidence and getting that sort of, oh, I can do this feeling, because we want to get that back. And that's when we shift that whole energetic disaster mode.
Yeah, it's like when you have a gigantic task in front of you, maybe you got your whole house to clean or something, you just have one little success here, right? Start with something small.
Yes.
Yeah. I got 30 seconds left. Just tell us very quickly about the Women's Code, and if people want to know more about it, where they can go.
Well, I suggest that you start taking the balance test and go to thewomenscode.com/balance test, or check out my book, Happy Woman, Happy World, at happywomanhappyworld.com.
Beate Chelette, once again, it's always a pleasure. We'll have you on again to talk about some of this stuff. We appreciate you coming on with us again.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Yeah, it's funny because somebody said one time that most people can't find happiness because it was too close to them.
Yeah.
It was right in front of their eyes. Looking around for something else, they're almost afraid to look at it because they're so busy acting defensive.
Yeah.
And that's something that, once again, you take the emotion out of it, and it's tough as it is to do, look at problems rationally. It's a whole lot more clear. Your thinking becomes a lot clearer. That's where somebody else maybe can help you out, seek some advice. All right, more to come. Speaking of seeking advice, we'll bring Professor Plum in here. He's got some financial advice for you. Another hour, the Boomer's Brain Trust 877-PLANNER is our number. We'll be right back.